Welcome to Washington Hospital Today, the program dedicated to sharing timely information about the community hospital that's been taking care of Washington Township Healthcare District residents since it opened in 1958. Washington Hospital Today is provided for the sole purpose of informing residents about healthcare topics and issues that have been covered during community forums, free health and wellness classes, or as part of educational sessions held during the district's open board meetings. This program is one more way that Washington Hospital helps empower you, the residents of the district, by providing information needed to make informed decisions about your health.
Whether or not you should lose weight and how much is an individual decision between you and your physician, because as we age, certain conditions can come on, and I think that, and medications that you take need to be considered too, so it has to be individually determined. So what we're trying to look at today are some basic skills that everybody should have in place. So let's take a look at the first slide that we have here. It talks just about the number of different fad diets that have come out in the last 25 years. And I don't know if any of you remember this one called AIDS. It was a chewable candy. I think I still have the box, and I'm wondering if I should save it for the Antique Roadshow. Bring me some bucks. But these are a number of varied diets that have come out over the years, and I would suggest not really buying into a lot of fad diets, especially as we age, because your calorie needs do drop as you get old, as we get older, and our nutrient needs don't necessarily drop. You might need the same. You might still have the same nutrient needs or more for different vitamins and minerals, but your calorie needs drop. So your choices have to be the best they can be in terms of being the most nutritious. So in terms of some of these fad diets, they're based on half-truths. A lot of them are based on complex. They take bits and pieces of complex studies and sort of exaggerate what was found. And I'm not comfortable with those that cut out major food groups or push certain foods or products or supplements that they promote as being the magic bullet for weight loss. And what's most disappointing is that many of them do not provide you with the skills that you need for healthy living and to lose weight and maintain that loss. So let's look at a few of those skills that you have to have in place. And one of them is increasing your awareness by self-monitoring. It's important to at least weigh yourself weekly to keep on top of what's happening. One of the first goals of weight management is trying not to gain any more weight. Okay, the first goal should be not to gain any more. So by weighing yourself weekly, you can make corrections sooner than later by evaluating what happened during this week. Was I exercising less? Did I dine out more? Those kinds of questions you can pose to yourself. Also, collecting food records is a known effective tool to help with weight management because it helps you identify problem areas that you can focus on as an individual. So some of the things that you might uncover is just your eating environment and who you're eating with. Let's say you have grandkids that come over and you have special treats in the house for them. Are you snacking on those special treats? Are you somebody who doesn't like to waste foods? Because I know that kids do, and you'll eat some of those leftovers. I know that started to happen to me. Also, looking at activities while you're eating. Are you distracted? Are you watching TV, working on the computer, doing work while you're eating? You lose sort of the value and the enjoyment of eating that food and even paying attention to how you feel when you eat that food. Sometimes you're watching TV and you eat a whole bag of potato chips wondering, now, where did they go? And you don't just feel satisfied from having maybe a handful of chips. You might feel too full, okay? So it'll also help you identify, obviously, types and amounts of foods that you might be eating at meals and snacks. So let's take a look at what might happen during the week to somebody. Let's say Joe, not anybody we know in the room named Joe, but any Joe, needs 2,300 calories to maintain their weight. And so they, typically the mindset, I'm going to start my diet on Monday. So they have a whole wheat, they have one whole wheat bagel instead of a donut. They go to light cream cheese instead of whole cream cheese. They have an orange instead of a big glass of orange juice. So they have a nice snack that they planned. They packed their lunch. You know, they're having baked chips, light mayonnaise, doing good. And then somebody offers them a Snickers bar. So they say, I'm going to just have half that Snickers bar. It can't hurt me. Then they don't want to waste the Snickers bar. So at 4 o'clock, they have the other half of the Snickers bar. Okay? And then on the way home, they're getting off work late, or they're spending the time out of their home, and they figure, well, I'm not going to go home and cook. I'm going to stop by. I mean, look, all the good things I did during the day, I deserve to have an Angus mushroom Swiss cheeseburger that's only 770 calories and X number of grams of saturated fat. And in any case, and of course, they are conscientious and have a Diet Coke. Okay, so at this point, their calorie intake is about the same. Okay, that's weight maintenance now. But then they go home, and there's some leftover treats at the house from the grandkids, and they have 2 chocolate chip cookies, but they always use non-fat milk because they have high cholesterol. So they're conscious of using lower fat dairy products. So at this point now, we have a surplus of calories. If this goes on during the week, they're going to see a weight gain. Despite all these efforts, they're going to see a gain. Now, if at this point they decide, if they had been maybe keeping food records or sort of being aware of what they're doing, they could have maybe just had half that Snickers. They could have, instead of going to McDonald's and having the Angus mushroom Swiss, paid attention to having a Southwest grilled chicken salad, looking at the calories, because now all that nutrition information is provided. They could get it grilled instead of the nuggets on top of the salad, using half a pack of dressing, and they have that option because it comes on the side. Maybe ordering a fruit yogurt parfait. So by paying a little bit of attention, now they've created a deficit. Now, if they do these things over here 4 days a week, but they do this kind of thing 3 days a week, their average calories is almost the same for their maintenance. And then they're going to wonder why at the end of the week they didn't lose weight. Okay? You've got to, on the average, create a calorie deficit in order to see the pounds come off. So that's what you have to look at during the week. Here's another example. Okay, so we have the meal plan from the middle of that other slide where these are the calories for weight maintenance, and they realize that. So they go out and they go on the treadmill in at their local gym, and they burn about 300 calories, but they meet a friend there, and they go out and have 2 beers. Okay, we're back at square one, right? It's a wash, all those calories that they burned. So those are the kinds of things you have to pay attention to. What's happening most of the time? Some things sneak in, okay? So you don't necessarily even have to keep food records every day, but maybe a few times a week you try to do it. So it creates an awareness of what's really happening during the week. It keeps you honest, okay? So let's look at rule number 2, or step number 2 about weight management. Is it usually you're going to have to select foods that are lower fat because those are calorie-dense foods, looking at your portions, trying to select smaller portions, and increasing more fruits and vegetables, as we'll see in a few minutes. Okay, and just changing out a few things during the week in a number of different ways can save you many calories. Okay, as we know, coffee's become a special treat these days, right? They're almost a dessert. So by changing from a specialty coffee just to having black coffee, and it could be a good black coffee that you buy, right? You're saving 260 calories from a beverage that you're drinking. You didn't even get to chew this and get any oral satisfaction. This was just drinking your coffee, right? Here's going from 12 ounces of orange juice to a fresh orange. You're saving almost 100 calories. Going from a large bagel with regular cream cheese to a smaller bagel with light cream cheese. I'm amazed that when I go to different restaurants and I order a bagel, because I'm expecting to put like a little spread of cream cheese, but it's a slab of cream cheese that you're given. So it's interesting that that is what they think people are going to do. And I guess many people do it. Also going from maybe a 12-inch sub to 6-inch sub. Going from regular potato chips to an apple. Because even though baked chips might be a few less calories, the apple is more nutritious, right? It's going to offer you more. It's going to offer fiber, some other minerals, that type of thing. So also cutting down on rice. Rice is fat-free, rice is sugar-free, but by cutting down to 1 cup of rice, you're saving almost 250 calories. Here's a steak. Cutting down on a steak is going to cut out, by going to a smaller portion, you're probably cutting out some of that fat too, saving of 116 calories. Going from premium ice cream to a light ice cream. Now, when we say light or lower fat, that's not a license to have 3 portions. The savings comes from having that modified product in the portion described by the manufacturer. So it is not a freebie. So make sure that you realize when something says carb-free or low sugar, that type of thing. It doesn't mean it's calorie-free all the time. It might be lower. Okay? So don't be duped by those kinds of things. But here we have a savings of over 1,500 calories. By the end of the week, that's 3 pounds. because you need to burn about 3,500 calories to lose 1 pound. Okay? And that's quite a few calories to burn, actually. Okay, so here's the food pyramid. Okay, I want to just bring up the food pyramid because I want you to know your tax dollars are at work. Okay? And the reason why I want to look at the food pyramid is because, again, just to look at and appreciate the variety of food that you can eat when you're trying to lose weight. And they're going to do you a lot of good because of the nutrients involved in these variety of foods that are offered. Okay, so if we look at grain products, these are how you should select in the grain product line when you go to the food pyramid. Oh, let me back up for a minute. I'm going to minimize this because we're going to go to the website now. Okay, because you all can do this at home on your own computer or here in our library at the hospital. Okay, my pyramid. Okay, this is just loaded with information here about every food group, the nutrients in every food group, the best ones to select in every food group. They have podcasts, everything for you here. So here you get a personalized plan if you'd like, where you type in your age. So let's put in 50. Let's select a male. And let's put in, okay, let's say 180. No, that's not what I want. Come back here. Okay, and how much exercise should we give this person? Let's say they exercise less than 60 minutes. Okay. So, now it politely says that your weight is not so great. So would you like a food plan for your current weight or to gradually move towards a healthier weight? So let's look at for the current weight. Okay, so this person to maintain their weight needs 2,400 calories. Okay, so if we go back though and ask to do what it would do for the option to lose weight gradually, it's 2,200 calories. And it tells you how many servings you need from each food group so that you can get a well-balanced meal plan and get all the nutrients you need from your meal planning and use a supplement only if needed, okay? So it even prints out for you your own special plan. There you go. So that it would print out like this for you. It would tell you how many servings you need from each food group. And then, as I mentioned, if you go, it gives you a detailed information at the website about what's considered a vegetable, what's considered a fruit, what's a serving, and so forth, if you are interested in doing so. So let me go back to our... Has anybody gone to My Pyramid ever? Okay, so that is, everybody has access to that. And let's look a little bit inside the pyramid right now. So in the grains group, what you want is most of your grain products to be, half of your grain products, if not all, to be whole grain. And looking for products that have about 3 grams of fiber per serving. If you're looking at cereals, you probably don't want one that has much more than 5 grams of sugar. And when you select muffins and bagels, potatoes, rolls, now I put potatoes in this group because they're kind of a higher calorie vegetable. But you want to think small. Has anybody seen the way muffins look nowadays? It's like a little cake, right? So that's what you want to look for in terms of the portion there. And the nutrients in this food group, calorie-wise, you're going to run about, on the average, 80 calories. But this is the food group that you're going to get carbohydrate from. You're going to get B vitamins here. And that's important as we age because B12 especially is a nutrient that may be lacking in some of us as we grow older. And these foods, cereals and breads, are fortified with B vitamins. And also we're going to have fiber in this food group, and as people age, there's concerns with constipation, so this provides a good source of fiber. And the typical serving is going to be somewhere between maybe like a 1 ounce product, like a slice of bread, 1 tortilla, that type of thing. And these foods help with weight management, especially when they're higher in fiber, because they're going to add bulk and keep you fuller longer. So you want to aim for close to 30 grams of fiber a day. The average person maybe gets about 15. Okay? In the fruits and vegetables group, you want to try to select fruits and vegetables in season because they're going to be the most nutritious at that time, locally grown, and probably less expensive that way. If you can't get fruits and vegetables fresh, you could also go to frozen that are unsweetened fruits that are frozen and vegetables that are usually frozen vegetables do not have much salt on them. And if you need to get canned, you can find those that are unsweetened and prepared without salt. So the average calories for a piece of fruit is probably about 60 calories. And vegetables are less, of course. They're not very high calorie. And this is where you get a lot more fiber and vitamins A and C, and a lot of phytochemicals or plant chemicals that help reduce our risk of certain kinds of diseases. So here are average servings that are discussed, as I mentioned, when you go to my pyramid. And these servings are also described on the handouts I gave you. So a piece of fruit about the size of a tennis ball is a serving, or a half cup cooked or a whole cup raw would be considered a serving. And of course, these foods aid in weight management because they are fat-free. There's no cholesterol in fruits and vegetables. They are filling because of the fiber in them. And your goal should be to try to get at least 5 servings per day. That's at the end there. So let's talk about ways to increase fruits and vegetables during the day. Let's start out with breakfast. When you have eggs in the morning, or egg beaters or egg whites, that type of thing, you could add some vegetables there. That's a way to add, get a portion at that time. And omelets, for example, could be used at lunch or dinner too. You can make a fruit smoothie in the morning with some frozen vegetables and some lower fat milk. Always trying to pay attention to adding fruits to your cereal, dried or hot fruit. If you've noticed nowadays, it seems like you can get all kinds of different dried fruits. Meaning we never used to have dried berries. Now we have dried berries, not just blueberries. There's cherries, strawberries, cranberries. So it's a plethora of options out there. When you have sandwiches, make sure you stack the vegetables in there. Even get a pita bread. You know, pita bread can hold a lot more vegetables because of that pocket size that they offer. And in terms of making things like fajitas and stir fry, that's a way to get a lot of vegetables. And nowadays, you can get them cleaned and cut up and ready to microwave. You can find vegetables cut up already for stir frying and even for fajitas. So they've done everything short of feeding it to you. So the option is out there to get those things. When you have maybe a frozen meal or you have pasta or casseroles, you can get fresh vegetables and steam them first, or buy those, like I said, that are clean and ready to microwave. Now they have frozen vegetables that are in these fancy bags that steam nicely. And you can add those to these types of meals or to casseroles or to soups. That's a really good way to increase bulk at those meals, is by adding the vegetables to a frozen meal or to soups, okay? Looking at the dairy group, you always want to select non-fat or 1%, and you can use, nowadays they even have lower fat cream soups. They're lower sodium and lower fat, because sodium is the next nutrient on the hit list at the marketplace, because the new dietary guidelines came out and they really recommend that people over 50 or who have high blood pressure already, and in certain groups need to follow about less than 1,500 milligrams of sodium a day, which is pretty tight. But now I notice that soups are coming with that lower fat and lower sodium. If you've got to have dessert, it's probably a good idea to try to select maybe one that comes from the dairy group, because at least you'll get some calcium and protein in there, okay? So maybe you get a light ice cream or some pudding made with lower fat milk, that type of thing. If you can't tolerate dairy products because of lactose, there are lactose-free milks out there. And you can even take lactase, which is the enzyme you might be lacking in. You could take it in tablet form before you have the dairy product and tolerate the food better. So this is the calorie range in this food group, and of course this is where you're going to get calcium and vitamin D, which we know we need as we age. And there's new calcium and vitamin D recommendations that have come out recently. So a serving size is anywhere between 6 to 8 ounces of milk or yogurt. It's hard to find 8 ounces of yogurt these days. It always seems to be like 5.5, 6 ounces. Same price, smaller package. I don't know if you've noticed that. And the way that they help with weight management is that they add variety to the diet. Okay, and of course, overall, it's going to help with bone health, and also calcium may play a role in controlling blood pressure. Okay. Next food group are proteins, and I think that people need to vary the kinds of proteins that they get. It's usually chicken, maybe some lean meat. If you do use beef or pork, you can select loin or round cuts. Those tend to be leaner. The animals are bred to be leaner nowadays also, compared to like 20 years ago. So the way you can vary your diet is try to have more seafood and get protein from things like beans, especially soybean. Soybean protein is equal to animal protein. Okay, so it was once thought not to be. but it is the soybean that tends to be what we consider a complete protein. So try to experiment with having more seafood and these kinds of products made from like tofu, that type of thing, as a source of protein versus the usual kinds of items. Also, with seafood, if you don't like seafood, remember tuna counts, tuna sandwiches. If you're eating 2 tuna fish sandwiches a week, that's the recommendation from the Heart Association, is to try to get 2 fish meals per week, and 2 tuna fish sandwiches during the week would count. So again, what happens, why protein foods help with weight management is that it's proven that protein foods stay in the stomach longer, and therefore they're going to keep you satisfied longer and delay the onset of hunger. So it's a good idea to try to get protein at each meal in the source of maybe egg whites in the morning, 1% cottage cheese, for example, could be used at breakfast time. At lunch, it can be, turkey cold cuts or tuna, as I mentioned. And at dinner, it could be something like tofu stir-fried, or maybe a soup made with soybeans. And again, of course, chicken, you want to select, you could cook with the skin on, but then take it off, that type of thing, okay? And when you select fish, you're going to get more of these omega-3 fatty acids that play a role in reducing our risk of heart disease. Okay. Also, the fattier fish are higher in vitamin D, and that's another good source for you. Fats provide satisfaction also. You don't have to follow a fat-free diet, but it's probably a good idea to look to see where you might be getting excess and try to purchase, for example, lighter versions of salad dressings, mayonnaise, sour cream, or cream cheese. We usually don't use the same kind of fat all day long. People aren't using margarine for every meal. You usually might be using some margarine for breakfast on toast, maybe mayonnaise at lunch, maybe olive oil at dinner, or canola oil or something like that. So it is a good idea to use a variety of fats. We get oils from nuts and seeds, and nuts contain a healthy kind of oil called monounsaturated fats. That's the same that's in olive oil and canola oil. But they are the same calories. So all fats have the same calories. So that's why we want you to look at where you might be getting excess from these kinds of foods. Nuts have become very popular, so you might want to be careful with the portion of nuts that you have. About 2 tablespoons would be a serving once a day. That's fine. But to grab handfuls and eat them, the calories are going to start to rack up pretty easily. Okay? So you don't have to give up fats, but try to select the healthier type, like canola oil and olive oil, but use them sparingly too. In general, this is how your plate should look, crudely speaking, is that you want your hand to be sort of the measurement for the portion of protein that you have. The palm of your hand is, the size and thickness of the palm of your hand is a good estimate how much you need. And your fist is an estimate about how much starch you might have here. Rice, potato, noodles, that type of thing. And usually fruit and milk could be used, or yogurt could be used as a snack or as a breakfast option. But again, as Dr. Liu was saying, half that plate you want to be vegetables. Okay? So there we have vegetables. I mean, we live in California, so we have vegetables much more available to us than other places. Okay, step 3, or strategy 3 for helping with weight management, looks at just some different behaviors you want to incorporate. It's important to plan meals as best as you can and purchase what you need. You don't want to eat on the fly, okay, because then you're going to probably end up making a poor choice. Even if you are planning to eat a few frozen meals during the week, get the items that you need. I'm not saying you have to have a frozen meal for every meal during the week, but you're tired, you don't want to cook something. It's better to have that frozen meal that you know is controlled for calories, portions are controlled, than running by a fast food place, okay, and making a poor choice. In general, you want to select things that are baked, broiled, barbecued, or steamed, lower fat methods of cooking. And especially at restaurants, if it's not clear how something's prepared, always ask. And be open-minded and experiment with modified products and recipes. Don't be closed-minded. I'm not going to like that. If you're usually using whole fat products, I would take a step down and go to lighter instead of going all the way to non-fat. That's going to turn you off. Kind of do a step-down manner, and you might, you'll tolerate things better if you go down in fat content a little slower than that. But I'm not going to say that you're going to like all the modified products that are out there, but they have come out with some really good food items. So I think that you should get it in a small portion and try it instead of buying it in bulk or something, and then you won't feel like you wasted it. What's great nowadays is we have things that are pre-portioned. You can find nuts that are pre-portioned, ice cream that's pre-portioned. So when you buy things that are maybe more economical, You could buy a big container of nuts at, you know, these big stores, and it's more economical, and then portion it out yourself in little baggies, but I don't know if everybody's going to do that. So look for things that are pre-portioned if that's your problem area, okay? Avoid impulse shopping and use a list, and don't go hungry, right? When you go hungry, especially at places that offer a lot of samples in every aisle, you've had probably lunch and dinner right there, right? You know what I'm talking about. Okay, so also check nutrition facts on labels. Some foods look like they serve one portion or one person, and they serve more than two sometimes, okay? So these are the kinds of foods I have found that look like they are for one person, but they are sometimes for two or a half person, right? They always say 2.5 people. Okay, so like for example, I was talking about muffins earlier, how they've grown in size, like the rest of us. So, for example, a muffin package might say that the serving size is 2 ounces, but it serves 2. Or they might even say a half a muffin is a serving. So if you eat the whole container that the muffin comes in, it's 400 calories. That's close to the calories you should probably have for a meal, especially if you're a woman. Okay? Also, things like these pot pies. A half of a pie is a serving in some cases. And drinks, they're getting better at indicating that, you know, making it so one container is one serving, but you'll still find them where it serves 2.5. Okay? And soups too, and some of these snack foods. So always look at the serving size and total calories. All the nutrition information that's here is for the one serving described by the manufacturer. Okay? Also, keep high-risk foods out of sight, out of mind. If you want cheesecake, it's probably not a good idea to have it in the house, right? Or if you have a hard time controlling your intake of ice cream or chocolates or any of the things that we strongly desire, it's best to go out to have those things and make a special plan of it. On Sunday, I go to Cold Stone and I get nasty ice cream, but the rest of the week, I don't have those kinds of things in the house because I have a hard time controlling the portion, okay? And also, it might be a good idea to get distracted. In fact, I just had a patient recently tell me that they're kind of at home at night, hanging around, and they're watching TV, and that's when they start to go into the cupboards in the refrigerator looking for snacks. It might be a good idea to remove yourself from the environment. Get out of the house. Take some classes at night. If you exercise, maybe a good time to go exercise would be at night, and maybe you don't have to do strenuous exercise. Maybe it could be something like yoga, which would help with sleeping that night. Okay? But I think to remove yourself from the environment, to not be around food all the time, is also an option. One of my big pet peeves is trying to avoid feeling starved because most of the time you leave stuffed. And I'm sure we've all had that experience. And that's especially important when there's a lot of temptations. When you go out to eat, it sounds, you know, the counterproductive that you're going to go out to eat because you're hungry, but at the same time, you don't want to go starved. Maybe you have a little apple or something like that before you get there, so when the chips come to the table, you don't dive into them. Or they give you that basket of roll of hot bread, you're not buttering it up and stuffing yourself with those things even before you get your main entree. It takes about 20 minutes for your stomach to tell your head that you're full. And you know what happens when you eat fast. You eat a lot in a short period of time because you want to get rid of that feeling. And by 20 minutes, you feel pretty full. But it's important to include mindful eating in your behavior to control your weight, because paying attention to how you feel. Stop when you start to feel full. What's the worst that's going to happen? You feel hungry in a couple of hours, you have a snack. Okay? So don't worry about trying some of these things out, okay? And don't confuse hunger with boredom, stress, or depression. And if you need counseling, be open to that, okay? And one of the things that also can help is to be with people who support your efforts. Recognize that some people may not be ready to lose weight and kind of want to drag you down with them, okay? Misery loves company. You might recognize that may not be doing it intentionally, but they haven't really, stepped up to the plate to start looking at their own behaviors, and they kind of want you to go along with them. So be with people who can support your efforts with food choices and with activity. When you go to restaurants, you can take control now more than ever, because it's a state law that if a restaurant has 6 or more establishments, they have to provide nutrition information. So you can find that so much information online or at point of purchase that they have to have that. So obviously you want to avoid fried foods when you dine out, and if it's not clear, as I mentioned before, ask how a food is prepared. Again, select items that are baked, broiled, or barbecued. Order added fats on the side. Let's start out at breakfast. You get eggs. They just lather up the bread with, industrial strength margarine, on your pancakes or your toast or your English muffin. Right at that point at breakfast, tell them to put all that on the side. You'll control what's going on. They've got many people to feed. They're just going to slap it on, okay? At lunch, for example, you might be able to ask for, if you go out for Mexican food, you could ask for guacamole and sour cream on the side, salad dressing on the side, that type of thing. Maybe the one food that always comes with most plates, because it just fills up the plate and it's inexpensive, are fries. You can ask, maybe you really want the fries. Can't you just ask them for 10? Maybe they could count out 10 fries. So you could get out of there satisfied but not defeated, right? Or you could ask them for maybe a small baked potato. They're willing to do those kinds of substitutions. You could always split a meal or a dessert with people. That really is helpful, okay? And I have noticed that some of the trends in restaurants nowadays are that they're going to start offering smaller portions to people. You just have to ask if it's available. You could order a la carte. That's always been an option, to order maybe a salad or soup on the side, half a sandwich, one soft chicken taco, something like that. Ask for a junior meal instead of a supersized meal. They might charge you more. Then you won't go back there, right? Now, you can ask for half the meal to be served. Instead of waiting for the doggy, you know what happens. They'll serve the meal. There's not going to be anything left for the doggy after you're done, right? Because it's going to be sitting there. You're going to be talking to people. The best thing to do is probably to ask them to only serve half. You'll take the rest home on the way out. That's a great way to help you with controlling the portion right at that moment. So let's take a look at some restaurants. This is always fun. I change this chart out every so often. Anyway, I didn't think who would have thought of this? Macaroni and cheese is probably pretty high calorie, high sodium to begin with, but let's take it a step further and fry it into macaroni and cheese balls. So a serving of this is 1,500 calories. So that's it for the day. You might want to eat one noodle at a time there. You'll be at that restaurant all day long, okay? So here we have almost 80% of your sodium needs for the day. This is an appetizer too. This is under the appetizer section. This is not a meal. Okay, and you have enough saturated fat for a few days, so you don't have to worry about that. You met your nutrient needs there. This is 315% of your daily nutrient needs for saturated fat in that macaroni and cheese. Okay. Then if you go to Taco Bell, you could have volcano nachos. Sounds pretty exciting. Almost 1,000 calories again for that. I guess it's a meal, really. There, and again, loaded with sodium. Almost 80% of your sodium needs. Half of your daily allowance almost for saturated fat. Okay, you go and have steak and riblet combo. You better split this up right before it comes to you because it gets pretty toxic out here. Sodium way over the top. Okay, saturated fat for the day. Panda Express, this is, it'd be great if you could split this at least with somebody. It wouldn't be so bad, okay? And maybe get a side of, maybe they have brown rice. Actually, P.F. Chang and some of these other mom and pop Asian restaurants that I've been to offer brown rice nowadays. Okay, so you go to a round table and you order a small pepperoni, even 2 slices, and I don't know if you'll stay with 2 slices, is 460 calories. Do people have more than 2 slices, do you think? Okay. How about a side salad with the 2 slices to keep you from having 3 or 4? Okay, that's what you could do there. And 1 toffee nut cookie, that's 1, is 500 calories. Okay, a cookie looks so innocent, doesn't it? Because it's smallish. So that's a meal. And then you have plenty of saturated fat from that cookie for the day. Okay, so here's 1 toffee nut cookie. When I go to Panera's, I always kind of lean to the left because the bakery's on this side as I walk in. Okay, so as you can see, the sodium is definitely an insult because pretty much if you eat out at a restaurant once during the day, you've got to cook the rest of your meals from scratch at home. You've overdone it probably. Okay, as far as exercise go, it's pretty much a no-brainer. It obviously helps with weight management because of just burning the calories, increasing that work for your body, maintaining muscle mass. Muscle mass burns more fuel. And we know that it can lower our risk of chronic diseases. Helps with blood glucose control right away. You take a walk. I work in the diabetes program most of the week, and we have patients that, not for weight loss, but just to go out and walk after a meal to help lower their blood sugar. Also important for creating bone density. You'll need to lower your risk of osteoporosis. It improves blood pressure and certain blood fats with conditioning, and it can improve your overall mood. You start to look good, you feel better. It improves your self-esteem and confidence, and can lower your risk of having depression. And of course, it can help you go into a deeper sleep at night. You probably don't want to exercise, late at night. That might keep you up. But with regular conditioning and regular activity, it helps promote better sleep, a deeper sleep. And it can be a source of fun and entertainment. And if you look at all the options that we have available nowadays, there's so many different kinds of health clubs. Each city in the Tri-City area, Fremont, Newark, Union City, all have senior centers that offer classes. And of course, local hospitals, Washington Hospitals has different exercise classes. And different community centers that might have at your own, maybe like at a mobile home park or that type of thing, they have community centers where they probably provide safe exercises for the senior population. There's always an option for home equipment now too. I think that you could probably find a pretty good deal on some of this home equipment with the way the economy is going, or go on Craigslist or eBay and look for a piece of equipment. There's exercise DVDs, even with your cable television channel and public television shows. There's exercise classes for seniors and sitting exercises. There's one show called Sit and Be Fit that's available. Even a simple walking plan, wearing the correct shoes and comfortable clothing, is going to probably be your most inexpensive and safe plan for exercise. And of course, there are even options for using Wii Fit nowadays. Anybody ever use Wii Fit? Okay, so that's in the comfort of your own home, and it can be fun. You can, have other people involved, so it's not just you out there doing exercises by yourself. In general, the American College of Sports Medicine, the American Heart Association are recommending that people try to accumulate at least 30 minutes a day of moderate intense kind of cardio or aerobic exercise where you're using large muscle groups, and also to include strength training, okay? At least 2 days a week, at a minimum. This is for overall good health, okay? Really, to lose weight, it's got to be trying to accumulate. I say accumulate because you could do, a little bit throughout the day, not all at once. Probably 60 minutes, even more than that, to maintain lost weight, okay? If we look at the National Weight Control Registry, where they get information from people who have lost weight on their own without medications and without surgery, you have to be in this group, you have to be 18 years of age or older and maintain at least a 30-pound weight loss 1 or more years. So the average person's lost over 60 pounds and kept it off for over 5 years. But when they look at these people, what they've done is that they basically have a greater commitment to their weight management efforts. And they are usually consistently following, 80% of the time probably looking at lower fat meal planning, which ends up being lower calorie. Having smaller, more frequent meals to help keep their appetite under control, including breakfast to get their metabolism going, and engaging in activity, accumulating that activity 60 to 90 minutes a day. And weighing at least once per week, as I mentioned, to do that self-monitoring, and less sitting time with the TV and computer. And by weighing once a week, they're going to take corrective action sooner than later when they can look at small gains and make the effort to correct the small gains right away, instead of having to look at a large gain and all the effort it's going to take to lose that weight, okay? So what you want to do overall is to use some of the tips that I talked about on no-nonsense tips for your hips, because those are the strategies that I think are the most important for moving towards weight loss and maintaining lost weight. And it's consistently doing these things most of the time and being honest with yourself about what is my usual intake, where do I slip. People underreport what they eat about 50% of the time, okay? Things still count when you sit or drink them, when you're standing and eating them, or when you drink them, or when you're in a store going around sampling things, the calories still get in, even though you're not sitting and eating them. And that's probably another good idea, is to probably have one place where you sit and eat your meals. You don't want every place to be associated with eating, okay? So if you have any questions at this time, we have a few minutes. She's going to come up with it.
I have two questions. Number one, when you say 5 fruits and vegetables, does that mean 5 fruits and 5 vegetables? So you're having 10 items from those?
That would be optimal, to do 5 of each.
Okay, and then the next question is...
No, but I'm saying 5 together, but it would be optimal to do 5 of each. Yes, that would be great.
Yeah, Weight Watcher program now, they're not counting points for your good green
Right.
fruits and vegetables,
Right.
which is really wonderful.
Right.
Let's see, and then does microwaving wreck the nutrients?
Probably not, because it's not in there that long. It depends on how long you cook it. You know, because I do microwaves like broccoli or green beans, that type of thing. And what I do is I don't cook it till it's very soft. I cook them al dente, so then it's not in there that long, destroying the nutrients. So I think that would be fine to do that.